Chris and I are live from the Everlight Solar studio. We did ask our first Iron Jock poll question: would the Badgers have more wins this season if Jim Leonhard was the head coach? Right now, 79% of you say no. It'd be the same or fewer. Matt, what are you chiming in on?
I think 79% of our listeners are right.
What?
First, here's the thing. Like, Jimmy Leonhard had the reins for all of last season at the end. And, there wasn't any scheme differences. We kind of ran the same thing. He didn't try and mix anything up. Jimmy Leonhard was like, let's make sure that defense is as good as it ever is. And he did. What I think our issue is we have a team for the last 3 decades has been built to be like Chris said, a blue collar, pound the rock, like, we're running it, I dare you to stop us kind of team. And then Phil Longo comes in and Fickell comes in, and I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong, but like, these players are set up to be run blockers, not necessarily pass blockers. It's going to take a couple years for the guys that we want to fit our system are going to be in through Longo and through Fickell. So like, I think we just have to be a little bit patient. These players were picked for a particular scheme. Longo and Fickell did as best they could in the portal this year, but they couldn't pick up they're not going to change the entire team. So to think that these guys were going to be able to switch to the air raid was maybe a little hopeful. And I was one of those people who thought the Badgers were going to be outstanding, but I'm coming to the realization, like, these players weren't handpicked by these coaches, and not to say that they were bad, but they might be better served in a different system. The same way Graham Mertz is feasting down in Florida. Like, this just wasn't the system that set up Graham Mertz for success. So I do think that there's a little bit to go with, like, these aren't necessarily his guys. They're good players, but they don't necessarily fit the system. And we just have to be patient.
JB from the V chimes in. Jim Leonhard was not the answer. Give me the guy who made it to the playoffs. It's his first year. Relax. Now,
well, you know what I would tell people? That, just to play a little devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're given the excuse of, we give coaches the excuse of, these aren't your guys.
Yeah.
But we're not taking away from Fickell's success at Cincinnati, because those weren't his guys.
Okay.
No, the guys that went to the playoffs with weren't necessarily his guys. It's not like he.
But it wasn't year one.
True, it wasn't year one, but it wasn't necessarily his guys. Those guys played that 1 year and left and went on to the NFL. Those are guys that were. It'd be like giving Anderson credit for like Borland and those guys and Melvin. You know what I mean? It's not. So you can't really. I don't know. I'm just saying.
But like, you play that game.
There's a flip side.
Brett's success. Barry. There's a lot of Barry guys in there, including Paul Christ. Was Barry's.
Anderson.
Yeah. Well, obviously Paul Christ was Barry Alvarez's coach, and then obviously Barry inherited him.
Yeah.
Phil Wanakee chimes in and said, "I lived in Gainesville for 9 years, and I love my Gators. I hated the Mertz transfer. I'm totally surprised. He's a different QB with good wide receivers." That's Phil in Wanakee. The Adam Madison has a question for Chris. The Packers and Badgers seem to have the same issues somewhat when it comes to starting the game and being very flat offensively. If you were coaching a position, what would you do to improve the problem? I'm interested to hear defensive mind and how to get people like amped up to start a game. And Matt, I think you can chime in as well afterwards, just for like making sure. I'm sure you've had flat. Well, today you had a comeback. I'm not saying you were flat, but like you had to come back today for a win. So we'll start with Chris, and then Matt, you can hop in there too.
I like that. I like that question. I think there's two ways to approach it. You approach it one way as just like the motivational coach or whatever, trying to get your guys fired up. But also you could do it schematically. Like if I was Wisconsin, what I would do is we put one play in. One play of our old school stuff. We're in the I formation. We're going to run a play action, max pro, and we're going to take the top off. I'm throwing it as deep as I possibly can to my most explosive wide receiver. Even if we don't connect, this is like you taking your sword out. You're unsheathing your sword, and you're just swinging it to let them know you better back up and not get too close. Then I would I'd pound the rock, man. If I was Wisconsin, I'd come out pounding the rock and kind of letting people know, like, I want to show you something. I want to show you that, hey, we're still Wisconsin. I want you to get thinking that, okay, this is the same Wisconsin. They're just doing it a different way. And then I'd get back to my spreading the ball, getting guys touches. Go ahead.
Well, before we get to Matt on this, the problem, like the frustrating part is they did that. They started with the big bomb against Iowa, and they got down the field and they didn't punch it in. All right, Matt.
For sure.
What about on your end of it?
You referenced our game today. This is one of those few situations where we came out super duper sharp. Both teams were just 100% through 3 ends. So that's just, we had 2 ends and then we had 1 miss in the third there. But energy is so important getting out on the ice. And that's why, like, before the game, like hours before the game, we're into like good mental spaces. Like, you're going out and doing whatever you need to do to be in the right headspace to start that game, whether that's listening to music or maybe you're just chilling in your room and you want some alone time or whatever it may be. You got to do what is best for your team to get in that right mental headspace. And I don't know what that is for the Badgers. Like, who knows? Maybe that's some sort of like pump up, like team speech from the coach in the locker room before the game that gets everyone excited, or maybe it's like everyone has like a collective song that they all like when they're all geared up and about to go out, they play that song in the locker room and get excited. But they need to do something to get themselves in that like really exciting mindset, because they want to go out flying around the field, and it's tough to do that if you're just like, oh, I guess it's time for a football game. 3 minutes from kickoff. I guess I'll maybe think about starting the lineup now. And you can't start flat, especially in this day and age. Offenses are so explosive, and any play can be a 50-yard play at any given time. So you can't like start flat and give up a couple of freebies like that and expect to be a super competitive team. So both the Packers and the Badgers need to figure out what it is that gets them going. What gets you excited? What gets that blood flowing? What makes you want to shorten some necks and crack some skulls like Chris Orr used to do back in his day? Right? Like, find that thing.